We do welcome back a good friend at the topics, David Schroeder, and he's a clinical social work therapist and life coach. His goal is to assist you in finding the wisdom and answers to your struggles. He offers therapies and approaches that get to the core of your struggles, empowering you to transform your life from inside out. With support, he helps you find those repeated patterns of thinking and behaviors that block your happiness and potential. For a quarter of a century now of experience, he offers the latest in psychotherapy and body, mind, spirit approaches, helping you resolve emotional, physical, and spiritual blockages. If you're ready, he offers holistic approaches that create life-changing results. David provides specialized therapies for depression, anxiety, stress, trauma, grief loss, self-esteem, life transitions, relationship issues, chronic pain, repressed emotions, repeated behavior patterns, and men's issues. If desired, he integrates spiritual aspects and perspectives to the counseling and coaching process as it pertains to the client's issues as well. David's therapy and coaching approaches seek to tap into the wisdom, innate healer within you. He offers tools to help you rejuvenate your spirits and discover your path, and helping you find opportunities within your struggles and change the way you address and move through life experiences, which we're all full of them in this date, this time, and at this moment. Today's topic, David presents insights from the Celestine Prophecy.
Tonight, I'm going to share 3 insights there was 12 insights altogether from a book. The first book was entitled The Self-Esteem Prophecy, written by James Redfield, and it was published in 1993. Before I get into the 3 insights out of the 12, I'd like to offer you for a moment my 3 experiences I had with this thing called intuition and synchronicity, which is a lot of what the Celestine Prophecy is about. So I go back to 1993 when I was living in Rockford, Illinois. And this particular day, I was on my way up, heading up to Stevens Point, Wisconsin for a workshop. And before I left Rockford, I stopped at a book and CD store by the name of, it was called Media Play. Unfortunately, the store doesn't exist anymore, but it was a huge store and loaded with books and CDs. And I often would visit that store and often spend a lot more money than I intended. And near the front of the store, I walked by this book display, and I had never heard of the book before. And I took about three or four steps past the display and just stopped dead in my tracks, turned around and just picked up the book. And it also had a musical CD with it that I also bought. And like I say, it was total, the book just said, pick me up, you have to read this. I want to shift gears for just a minute. So that was one synchronicity. About 5 years prior to that experience, my ex-wife and I, when we were married, we took our 2 sons to Disney World, and both Disney World and Epcot. And in Epcot, we heard this music all through our journey there. And we kept asking staff and whoever, who plays this music? Who is this? And no one could give us the information. While in Media Play, after I picked up the book, The Celestine Prophecy, then I went to near the back of the store and browsed through the CD section. And I picked up this CD, never heard of him before, by the name of Ray Lynch, was the composer of this CD. And like I said, never heard of him before. On the way up to Stevens Point, I put in the CD, and the 3rd track, all of a sudden I hear the music and I'm going, oh my God, that's Epcot. That was the music we heard about 3 or 4 years prior to me in the now listening to that CD by Ray Lynch. The next time I had seen my ex-wife, I made sure to bring the CD, and I handed it to her and I said, play the third song. She puts it on, and third song, and about 10 seconds into it, she goes, Epcot. And we both had quite a laugh, because now we both knew who that song was by. So another instance of synchronicity and just listening to that intuition and going with it. The third experience I'd like to share is probably the most powerful, and in a very spiritual way as well. In 2012, December in 2012, I had gone to the Mayan ruins, and I gifted a friend on that trip to celebrate the end of the Mayan calendar. And it was quite a celebration down there, as you can imagine, at that time. Fast forward then to April of the next year, 2013. I had opened up a guy's email by the name of James Twyman, who I hardly ever opened up his stuff. But this particular time, I opened up his email, and somebody had dropped out of a trip that he was offering to walk the steps of Mary Magdalene in southern France. Now, I had just spent 10 grand on a trip in the end of December, and now I'm going to potentially go on another trip 5 months later. And when I don't work and being self-employed, I don't get paid. Anyways, I was very intrigued by it. And so I just sat for a moment and asked, what am I to do? And I heard this voice say, go. Okay. So I put my name in, sent it to James, and that night he got a hold of me and said, if you want to go, you're in. So the next thing you know, I'm off to France, southern France. Little did I know that at the time I would be meeting my beloved Therese. And part of it was I was going there to reconcile some of my energy with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene of past life energies. So had I not said yes to that trip to go to France, I would not be sitting here with you folks tonight. So everything's in perfect order. And when Spirit says, go or do this, even though it seems insane, it doesn't make sense, don't quite understand why, perhaps in the moment, but I believe we're coming into a time more and more now with the energies and such that synchronicity and listening to our intuition, connecting more with the pineal gland and our heart center, are going to become much more important and crucial and life enhancing to us. In order to ride the wave of the insanity that's going on, but more importantly, as a way to continue to further elevate and accelerate our expansion in consciousness and spiritual growth. So the Celestine Prophecy, even though it was written nearly 20 years ago now, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've gotten more in touch with the books. And Therese and she's going to join me in this. And it was a story, it was an adventure. And it was about these insights that the government was, especially in South America, was hiding from the population. So what I'd like to do is highlight 3 of the insights. And I'm going to give you insight 3, 4, and 5. And with each of the insights, the 12 insights, the one insight leads to the other. In other words, they're all kind of in a sequence, and they all interconnect and relate to each other. And it seems that these 3 that I'm going to highlight especially are really crucial to what's going on in the world today, both individually and collectively. So the third insight is entitled A Matter of Energy. And it's about the importance of how we work our energy, both the energies of the universe and the energies within ourselves. And to some degree, over the course of centuries, we've seen to lost sight of that connection, especially the connection and the energy to source. And it's got very polluted and toxic and distorted in terms of what that all means and how to be with that particular energy. And we've gotten to a point with energy that we're competing for each other's energy. And I'll explain more about that in the next insight. But when you truly realize, which many of you, I'm just going to reinforce this, when you truly realize how connected you are, and we all are, to energy, and that it's all about energy. And it's a very dynamic field of spiritual energy. And energy is projected to us, and we project energy. So it's a giving and receiving. And this energy field is always connected and listening to what I call our broadcast. And our broadcast is delivered through our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and ultimately our beliefs and our behaviors. So we're constantly broadcasting in a positive or a negative way, and we're telling the universe what we want and the experience we want, consciously and especially unconsciously. And the universe will always deliver what we broadcast. That's why when you say, I can't do something, you get the experience of you can't, because that's what you're broadcasting. You broadcast, I can, the universe hears that. Oh, you want the experience of I can. And so that's the experience you have. So the universe is always listening to our broadcast. And where our thoughts and our attention goes, so the energy goes. And the essence of the universe and our souls, our bodies, our physical bodies, it's all just vessels and expressions of different types and forms of energy. And all this energy, all this expression through our different personalities and such, it's all housed in what I would see as the overarching energy of the spirit. And so the spirit contains it all. It holds it all out of love. And there's 4 ways that I'm going to give you. There's a whole host of ways, but I'm going to give you 4 ones that many people don't really think about too much and use. And these are above and beyond the importance of meditation and such. The first one is to connect and appreciate the beauty, especially the beauty of nature. To notice and appreciate beauty is to connect to what shapes and colors our world. And in that connection, in that appreciation, I believe we notice things in a much more sharper and more vibrant and more alive kind of sense. And the importance of appreciating that, which many people don't do. When Teresa and I spent the 3 weeks in Alaska, and we were in a totally different environment than we have here in Michigan. And just the allness of where we were and what we experienced in those 3 weeks. And I told her in about the second week into it, I said, you know, Teresa, we probably experienced more in these 3 weeks than most people have experienced in their entire lifetime. And we still had a week to go. So the importance of connecting with nature and appreciation the energy of nature helps you tap into that energy and more alignment with it. And to me, here on earth, energy, or the natural environment, is one of our greatest teachers in so many ways of how to truly live and be in this thing called life. The second powerful way to tap into energy is the act of giving. And to give without consideration of the loss. I freely give out of love, out of charity. Many great masters, they might not have given money or personal possessions, but the ability to serve is the fundamental way to give, with the understanding that as we give, we receive. And the third powerful way to connect to the energy field is having gratitude, a focus on what's good in our life. Within that, focusing on what's good in my life, the ability during the difficult and hard times, the ability to move from why me, poor me, to more of why not me. Much of who I am today happened nearly 25 years ago with the death of a dear friend. And in that time of grief and sorrow, there was a moment in time when my higher self very out loud said, why not me? And I've resonated with that statement ever since, because it allowed me to be more open to the opportunities of higher learning and spiritual growth. And it's a fundamental way of moving out of the victim energy and more to the thriver energy. And like I said, it's a fundamental way of also learning the lessons, and that we're not being punished. We're just being shaken up in order to more fully waken up into the higher realms and higher wisdom of love and innocence and goodness. The fourth way to tap into the energy is the higher and heightened awareness of our thoughts and beliefs and the words behind all that we use day in and day out. As humans, we have the ability to influence what happens in our lives through our thoughts and our intentions and our attitudes. Our thoughts and words are powerful, for sure. And you have between 40 to 60, some even say 90,000 thoughts a day. And most of those thoughts, you have no clue. They're automatic, they're unconscious. They're part of your program. And above all that, then there's the beliefs that we hold, especially the unconscious beliefs. Not only from this lifetime, but from your past lifetimes as well. And our beliefs, especially the unconscious ones, like I said earlier, will influence how the universe responds, how it answers your broadcast. What you achieve, or we achieve what we believe, the level of your belief will match your achievement in life. So that's the third insight, is the ability to master the energy of the universe as best you can and to align more openly and congruently with that energy of the universe. The fourth insight is called the power struggle. How the need for power and control causes us to compete, if you will, for each other's energy. And this fourth insight is playing out more now than ever on the earth plane. The need to compete for each other's energy is of the lower consciousness and lower vibration. And it leads to this thing called power struggles and conflict and ultimately drama. And that's a lot of where we're at today, even in our own backyard, even in our own families. And too often humans will cut themselves off from the greater source of energy, which is God. And as we've disconnected from source and we've gotten so bogged up in our own energies and with each other's, this is a big reason why we feel weak and insecure, because we've disconnected to the ultimate power source and energy source, and we've given more time and credence and attention to the energy around us, especially the negative and distorted energies of the human personality, both within ourselves and with each other. The ego has this mindset that we gain energy. The way to gain energy is to compete and to manipulate or force each other. So I have a need for you to give me your energy. And it seems in this world, the stranger you act, the more bizarre you act, the more attention you get. The more you lie, the more you fabricate and come up with all these distortions, the greater attention you get. We seem to really be drawn to that if we're not conscious and aware. And it's a wonderful con job, and it's a wonderful way to keep the disconnect from ultimate source of energy and love further away from us. Conflict between people is all about who will hold the power, thus control. If you look at the political, the economic, education, healthcare, racial, you name it. If you look at all these systems and how, if you peel it all away, what it's really about, how can I control and have power over you? For my gain, not so much for yours. And I'll do everything I can. And that's part of what's going on, is these systems are starting to crash and lose their influence. They're doing everything they can to hold on to that power and control. So it seems to be more chaotic and more ugly and dysfunctional and whatever. And that's the natural course of chaos. They know their days are numbered. So they're hanging on for dear life, and it's getting more powerful from their end. So much of the conflict and the division that we're experiencing today fundamentally is for that need for power and control. I need to be right, and I need to prove you wrong. That's what's going on in many facets, in families, communities, governments. I also believe the heightened conflict and violence these days is due to, like I said earlier, that disconnect from our source and our own spiritual essence. We've lost the understanding that we are spiritual beings, temporarily having this thing called a human experience. But the ultimate of who we are is a spiritual being. So the need for power and control, in the book, they call it the control drama. I like to call it the drama triangle. And the triangle, if you think of the 3 points on a triangle, there's the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor. The victim is, I hate myself. The rescuer is, I need to fix everyone to avoid myself. And the persecutor needs to hate everyone, and they need to be right at everybody else's expense. In each of those points, they're kind of a victim in their own right. And many of the things I do in my work is help that victim energy move from the victim of your life, the poor me's, the why me, to more being more the creator of my life. I am, I can. And the rescuer, rather than fixing and needing to be needed so much, they just coach. They don't do for everyone else. They just kind of plant seeds and then step back and let it be. And then the persecutor, rather than condemning everyone, putting everybody down so I look good, rather than doing that, they challenge in a loving and a supportive way. Do you see the dramas playing out in your life, especially these last 2 years with the COVID-19? And it's showing up in all sort of ways to wake us up, to reconnect to the true energy source and power source. Once we humans understand and accept that the true power is in letting go, easing up on the accelerator, rather than proving myself right and you wrong, I just let it be. I stand in my own authority and my own truth, but I'm not going to try to convince you of yours. That takes a lot of inner strength and inner power, and that was what the masters teach, is the true understanding of power. And when we can truly let go, we'll transcend the conflict, and we'll begin to break free from the need to compete for each other's energy, and we'll be more free and loving and accepting. So the fourth insight is to understand the struggle for power and how you can consciously and especially unconsciously get caught up in it, and what happens to you and how you lose your ultimate sense of power and self-esteem when you lose that power and you compete for that energy. The fifth insight is the message of the mystics. And their primary message, I believe, as I've worked with Yeshua's energy over the years and just read many stories of other mystics, they understand that the universe will provide all that we need if we would just open up and trust it and allow it. And then more importantly, feel worthy of receiving what the universe truly offers for us. But to just open up to it means I have to surrender. I have to surrender to and trust in the source of all that is above and beyond me. I have to let go of the ego. I have to let go of my past and the future and just be in the present. And the mystics understood the importance of the connection and the alignment with, first and foremost, with Source. And that this energy is the true energy and power source that will never let you down and never go dim. But if I need control and I need to know the outcome, we're an ego, and there's the disconnect to Source. Those three examples I gave you in the beginning of my own synchronicities, I had no idea. That book I picked up, I had no idea what was in it. I just knew it wanted me to read it, and I'm glad I did, and I keep reading it. When I bought that CD, I had no idea that it would reveal the music we had heard in Epcot and brought a sense of joy from that. I had no idea when I said yes to going to France that I would have a powerful spiritual healing with Yeshua after all these years, and I would meet my beloved Therese. Love is saying yes to the spirit, to the unknown. Love is saying yes to your heart knowing, even though it might not make sense in the moment. But you trust it, you allow it, you give it a chance. One of the greatest mystics of all times was Jesus, is Yeshua, in human form. And he was a great example of surrender and a connection to Source, even though I believe he was Source in human form. But he said, I and the Father are one. He didn't do things the human way. He was a rebel, and he was a highly advanced and conscious being. He was a way shower. And he had very little in terms of human possessions and material needs. He had little formal education. And he wasn't concerned about money so much. He was concerned about family and the welfare of his fellow humans, for sure. And he was very giving of his time and his wisdom. He spent 40 days in the desert. And he turned supposedly water into wine. And he even walked on water. And he had the ability to feed 5,000 people with a loaf of bread. And he was as much as a student as he was a teacher. And he traveled around the world to both learn and teach. And he never defended himself to those who accused him. And he says in the Course of Miracles, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. He understood the true power of surrender and the freedom that allows one. And he knew he was taken care of, even in the face of death. And he knew how to work the energy. And thus he mastered himself. He didn't need to control other people, nor did he need to persuade anyone. He just planted seeds. And then he says, you do what you wish. Hamid Bey was very disciplined in mind, body, and he was there to serve. And he was a wonderful meditator. And he was a lifelong learner from a very young age to the time of his death. He was always seeking, and he was always giving. There's a gentleman by the name of John Davis. One of these days, I hope I get to meet this guy. I hear he's quite a dude. But he has many of the qualities as well of a master. With his humbleness, his intuition, his wisdom of numerology, and his passion for life, and a peaceful humanity. In fact, before his death, Hamid Bey chose John to be the national director of the Coptic Fellowship. One master passing the baton to the next master. Like I say, someday I hope I get to meet that guy. He sounds like a wonderful human being. And he's kind of like me. He's kind of a couple of fries short of a happy meal, which keeps us going, keeps us traveling lightly. Mystics, they travel lightly. They often don't have many material possessions. And so they're not attached or too defined by the material world. But they have a passion for life and people. And they seek to nurture people and life, not destroy it, not take advantage of it. And they have a habit of not taking life quite so seriously. And they offer unconditional love and acceptance. And they seek to empower and enhance, as I said, life for the benefit of all. So I'd like to close with the power of the mystics and the message of the mystics. In your life, folks, have you ever had a mystical experience? A wow moment? Where you felt that you were in the zone, if you will, and you were in the energy and the connection and the flow with Source. And it was full, that time was full of abundance and joy. But yet you didn't quite understand how it was all going to play out. But it made perfect sense to say yes and just follow it, to trust it, to give it a chance. And in that mystical experience, did you not feel the connection, the oneness, the increase, the heightened awareness, and the sense of clarity and bliss? Our challenge and true freedom, folks, is to connect back. And that's where we're at right now in this ascension process. I believe it's about humanity coming back to the connection and to the ultimate freedom, to be in alignment with the energy and the wisdom of Source, whatever you name that. And to learn the higher ways of how to work this energy and this love, and this abundance, and this worthiness, to truly feel it in the essence of our heart. To challenge ourselves to rise above the need for and the control to have that power over others. It's not power over, it's about power with. That's the masters, that's the mystics, is the willingness to have power with. That we're all one. So I close and I open it up to a dialogue if you wish. If anybody would like to share, as I shared, a mystical experience they might have had in this particular lifetime. I thank you, and it's a blessing to be with you all once again.
Blessings, David. Thank you. Wonderful presentation, and definitely makes you think of comments, suggestions, I think, not only for myself, but the group as well tonight. In a world that is, we're bombarded with power and control, not only from, like you said, the government, with our own neck of the woods, with families, with coworkers of opinions. You mentioned about what Master Yeshua did with putting the seed out there, but coming back and staying with Source and with humility, with love. And if you could touch on that a little bit more, of when we come across these situations of such competition with others, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's just everyday life at this time, the media, the news, the families, as you mentioned. Could you touch on that a little bit more? What some of your tips, your keys of putting not a wall up between you and others, but allowing things to be and putting love within it?
Yeah, very good question, and very applicable for these times. The main thing is not to take the opinions of others so personally. And just to allow for everyone to have an opinion, everyone to express themselves, but not take it as if I have to prove myself right and them wrong. Just be in that space without losing yourself. If it gets too heavy, if it gets too ugly, if you will, if the other person gets too unconscious to the point where they're losing themselves, then by all means, politely but assertively, just disengage. And as you set the boundary, realize you can still love that person. You can still have compassion for that person. But I just don't need to get caught up in their energy.
Right.
And I don't need to lose myself with them. I don't need to, because once I lose myself with them, now, now we've competed for power, and it's nobody's going to really win in the long run. And it potentially is just going to get deeper and deeper into the ugliness and the darkness. Realize they just are where they are at, and it's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's where they're at. And ask yourself, who and how do I want to be within how they're acting and reacting. I have many clients that when I speak a truth and they don't like it, I'm probably not going to see them again. And I've come to appreciate that's their journey. That's just where they're at. And I just love them from afar. And if they want to come back, the door is always open. And sometimes they do. Some don't. Free will is alive and well. But the key is not to take it so personally, as if it's about you. Because we're all being triggered. Our own emotional wounds are coming up like wildfires. And if we're not aware of our beliefs, especially our unconscious beliefs and such, you're going to get the reaction you get, which is often very hostile and I need to prove myself right and you wrong kind of thing. So that's my advice, is don't take it personally. Just honor it. If it gets too heavy and too whatever, yes, by all means, set your boundary. Step out of it. Don't get caught up in it. And more importantly, don't give away the love and the goodness and the innocence you are within that dynamic. Because it's actually teaching you to stay in your own truth and your own authority and love yourself and them as well. So, Michael, hopefully that answers your question.
Very much so, and then some. Thank you. Does anyone else have comments for David or questions tonight?
I have, David, I was privileged to be in the south of France, and I thought that it was very mystical and magical. And I had more than one mystical experience. One of them was we were, and the lady.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, she's back.
Ruth, can you do me a favor and start over? We lost you.
Oh my gosh.
That was the energy.
I just wanted to tell you that I was in the south of France, and
Yeah.
I just feel it was such a privilege to be there. And I had several mystical experiences. And one of them was that we went into one of the oldest buildings in Paris, and they let us go down the basement. A cellar. It was really a cellar. And she was, our guide was telling us that this was one of the oldest places and that it had changed from the beginning. All the people disappeared. I know that I was in the place she was telling me when that place was new. And I had the sense to think, how has it changed? Because that's what she was talking about. And I really could see very few changes. And then everything was back. I was back here. So
Cool. Yeah.
I love the South.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yep. Anybody else? Thank you, Rose.
David, I want to tell you, man, I really enjoyed your talk tonight, man.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I'll mention one of the first New Age CDs I ever picked up was Ray Lynch. So I definitely enjoy his music.
Yeah. Yeah. He's different, that's for sure, but it's cool stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Yep.
I have the Celestine Prophecy on my bookshelf, read probably 20 years ago. So now I think I'm going to take that off the shelf and read it again, because you know how we experience things differently because we are in a different place.
Yeah.
But I remember it having a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can tell you, the reason I reconnected with it 3 or 4 years ago, and I think this is happening to a lot of people like you who, you know, we read it originally 20 years ago or so, is not that it wasn't true back then, but it was a prophecy that, and it's almost like 20 years later, now it's really coming to bear. And that's what's been intriguing to me is every one of those insights. Yeah, they're more heightened right now, and they're that much more important now than they were even 20 years ago. And to me, they're very fundamental in terms of what's going to help us, like a lot of other things, help us through this ascension process. So yeah, I think you'll find that true as you start to reread it. Yeah.
And they've added the 12th insight too. There's 11 and 12, so there's even more to add to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a beautiful, when I originally bought the book, he has a CD, it's all music that is absolutely beautiful. That if by chance, if you like music, it's very mystical music as well. And I know they made a movie of it, I don't know, probably half a dozen or so years ago. So you can actually see it. I don't know if it's on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, but they did make a movie of it as well. So
Just to comment on going back to reread books, I've reread quite a number of the books that I have, sometimes 4, 5, 6 times. And every time I go back to a book, I come into it with a new set of experiences. So that allows me to take something else out of it.
yeah. And to me, Alan, that's a sign of a truly spiritual book is, even though you read it once or twice, every time you pick it up, you find something, wait a minute, how did I miss that? Yeah.
Sometimes you could be reading about something you know intimately, but then the author, and it's not just reading, sometimes listening to someone speak, the author or the speaker just uses a different phrase or a different combination of words, and that acts as a catalyst to unlock a new understanding on a topic that you thought you knew intimately.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things, if I may, in the first book I wrote, one of the common reviews was just that every time they reread it, they pick up something different. If I may share with you guys, while we were in a place in Alaska called Achina Hot Springs, we spent 3 opportunities sitting in a hot springs. And just beautiful. And the morning meditation in the hot springs, all of a sudden the title to the next book came in kind of a wow moment. And the title is Love, the Spirit of All That Exists. And so to articulate how everything in the world of spirit, there is no right or wrong, there is no good or bad. It's all under that energy of spirit, and the spirit is just that container that can hold it all with non-judgment and true unconditional love and acceptance. So thank you, Ellen, for sharing.
I got one question for you, Dave. Have you seen any UFOs?
We think so.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
We saw a couple interesting cloud formations.
Oh, cool, man.
And we were guided with much peace. And the message I heard was just stay the course and stay open. It's our understanding for us personally, we're going to be contacted personally by the end of the year.
Oh, cool, man.
As well as I believe many of you will as well. I often see faces in things, and there was several experiences where I saw faces and they had their message similar, just stay the course, stay open, stay loving,
Right.
and things like that.
We're listening to on Gaia just this weekend, actually, the Stephen Greer. A lot of information on how you yourself prepare yourself And you have to be accepting of all, if you open yourselves up and you're not afraid when they appear, they'll show their presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got, like I said, all weekend, we were listening to him. And the worst thing you can do is be scared and run up to him or run away.
Say hello to them and have a nice conversation.
Right. And that's what Stephen Greer says, that they are here to support us.
If I may, and I played it at the last, the New Year's celebration I did. I don't think it was last year, but the year before. And I played Neil Diamond's song, Heartlight.
Oh, come on.
And I just learned this a couple of weeks ago. That song, Neil Diamond, Burt Bacharach, and somebody else, the three of them were watching that movie in a theater. And he came up with that idea of that song, Heartlight.
From E.T.
Because it was about E.T.
Really?
And then about a year later, the movie maker, even though he didn't mention E.T. in the song at all, but they turned around and tried to sue him.
But they wanted their money.
And but that song
It's all
was
about money.
that song was about E.T. The movie E.T.
Heartlight.
Heartlight. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
bit of trivia.
What?
Put on your heart.
E.T. E.T. phone home.
Yep.
Heartlight.
Good trivia, David. Thank you. Put on your heart light, let it shine wherever you go. I guess some of the
Yep.
lyrics.
There's several in our group that have seen ETs. Anybody else want to raise their hand? All right, you can share later. I know who you are.
Come on.
All right. Well, thank you, folks.
Thank
Great
you, David.
discussion.
Thank
Sure
you.
is.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Great presentation.